people have this question on how do I really, measure data? How do I visualize data? How do I interpret data? And how do I make a sort of data-led decision for doing different things in my community? So that is the topic that we picked for today. And thank you so much everyone for joining us. So I'll very quickly introduce myself as well for anyone who is joining for the first time. My name is Nipun Goyal. I'm the founder and CEO of LikeMinds, which is essentially the software that powers Communityhood. Communityhood is a community of community builders. And we have now about 1,100 community builders in it. And we do these learning events very often, and sometimes some of the networking events where we try to sort of talk about certain topics which are generally challenges for different community builders. The most important step is to really understand the objectives. You literally need to define the KPIs. The second step is generally to identify the tools. It could include just the analytics tool, or it could also include certain community building tools which help you sort of analyze your community. And then the third part is, measuring it, reporting it, structuring it. So let me very, very quickly jump on to different KPIs that community builders generally look at. And I've tried to sort of accumulate this based on different industries. So let me start with EdTech, where, we've seen a lot of people quickly, realizing the value of community. One of the most important things for most EdTech platform is, customer success in terms of how many jobs are they able to get their sort of members, or how many gigs are the members able to get from the organization. And community teams a lot often are involved into making sure that this happens. Now, one of the sort of more common metric, and this is not only for EdTech, but like most communities, is how many event attendees are turning up, how much time is being spent in the events, because, EdTech, obviously learning through events is the most common thing. Then a lot of people measure how many mentions are happening on social media, how many leads are generated through those mentions or otherwise, then how many alumni are referring other members to the, let's say, to the course or to the whatever product the EdTech is offering, or how many collaborations are done, how many connections are made between members, right? So these are some metrics that we've seen EdTech organizations are using. And I'm going to give one example, which is my captain. And it's not a lot detailed example, but I just wanted to highlight this, that, we got Zishan in one of our earlier events, and very, very interestingly, like he shared that despite having a NPS of 72, which is very, very high, trust me, NPS of 72 is like holy grail for any product, but still they had just 4% of referral. And this is when they actually decided, let's build an alumni community. And their referral rate, and it took some time, it took like 6 to 12 months to really build the community, but the referral rate actually increased to 22% from 4%. The next set of industry is where community is picking up really, really fast. And I think this is one area where communities have been there, for a while now, especially in the West. I think like it is by default that if you're running a SaaS organization, you'll have a sort of support focused community, So one of the measures of the value that the community team brings in is by the fact that, hey, because you are a SaaS platform and there will be a lot of questions being asked at scale, why do you, not like, why don't you allow the community to answer these queries to each other instead of your team answering the same queries every time? So one of the common metric that SaaS sort of communities measure is the number of tickets resolved by the community, or the number of queries answered by the community, right? And a lot of times, one of the metric that people measure is how much revenue or how much of success. So in this case, let's say in LikeMinds case, when we were focused on creator platform, one of the most important metric for us was, can we help our creators to increase the money that they're making through the platform? And like one of the rooms that we had, I remember that time, was exclusively for the creators who were using us to sort of discuss the best practices of making more money, right? So sometimes that can also be a metric for you as an organization. Then some of the obvious ones are number of testimonials generated. Very, very commonly SaaS platforms use these testimonials across different industries, across different geographies. Community teams also at times are responsible for the delta of NPS score, right? So you may have a product which is fixed at an NPS of, let's say, X. Now it's community team's job to improve the experience of the product. So in a way it is adding to the customer success as a broad metric, and you could measure increase in NPS score. Then this very interesting concept, in fact I read it in David Fink's book, The Business of Belonging. It's called CQL, which is the community qualified leads. So I'm sure you would have heard of MQL, which is marketing qualified leads, right? So a lot of times marketing teams run campaign, and you would generally find certain leads which are relevant, and then the sales team will operate those leads to convert them into whatever revenue funnel that you have. Similarly, there is this concept of community qualified leads. So you actually measure the potential clients or the members who are engaging with different community assets that you've created. So you could have a community asset around an event ritual like this one that we're doing, which is the Roundtable. Or you could have a community platform where community is engaging with each other. So what the community team does is they would identify certain members and they would give those leads to the sales team. That is one. The other one is, you could literally measure that out of the leads that are converted, how many of them were the leads which got engaged with different assets that the community team was managing. So maybe for us, these events are working much better than the community platform. And, I've seen a lot of these players, like in fact, last event we had Pepper Content, right? These guys don't even run a proper community platform. They made it a specific point that events are doing really well for us. So if one type of community asset is doing better than the other, then you should generally focus on that type of community asset. So the idea is, can you identify certain clients through your different community assets that you're creating and generate leads for the sales team? So that is basically CQL. Then one of the other type of sort of industry where communities is picking up is D2C. So we've seen a lot of brands like Boat, Mamaearth, who have primarily grown through not just like a community platform community, but treating all social media platforms as their own community. So they measure in most cases, on metrics like number of feedbacks, number of reviews, number of mentions on social media, number of new product ideas that are generated. So I've seen a lot of D2C brands creating these small WhatsApp groups with some of their power users, and then, co-create some of the products. I know for sure that Baby Chakra did that, in their early days. So co-creating new products with the community is also something that people actually measure. And then how many organic purchases, how many organic downloads, if the funnel is first download and then purchase. So yeah, these are some of the metrics that we've seen. One other metric that I would like to add is some of the D2C brands are also now focusing on repeat purchase, right? So as a community team, can you increase the repeat purchases of a customer? So for example, we have M1 retention in different apps, right? Similarly, there is M1 retention in someone who purchased once. Are they purchasing again? Now this frequency could be M1, it could be M1 is like 30 day, It could be 1 quarter as well. So it depends on how frequently are you, do you expect the product to be purchased. So I want to emphasize it again, and I'll quickly, talk about 1 or 2 more industries, but all these are very, very, open-ended sort of matrix. None of them is like, this is something that works for this industry. Let me just copy all of them and see, what works for my community. I would strongly emphasize on, picking, let's say, the right objectives and then map these with your objective. The next industry that, I've seen working is where communities is picking is very obvious, where vertical networks, right? So before LikeMinds, I built Curify, which was essentially a community of doctors. So vertical network is nothing but like a large community where you pick one sort of, let's say, one niche, whether it is, let's say, a profession, whether it is, let's say, any country. Like a lot of times people are building city-based vertical network. So there is this platform called I think local LOKL, which is focused on city-based news. So these are all vertical networks, right, where generally you create engagement within the community through some interesting use case, and then over time you increase the time spent by members on the app or whatever asset, and then you monetize that engagement, right? What the typical Facebook, Twitter model, but focused on one niche. That niche could be any profession, any interest area. So in these cases, the matrix that we've seen typically community teams measuring is number of contributions. So contribution could be in terms of number of posts created, number of comments created. So at Curify, we used to measure how many cases have been uploaded on the platform every day. So I remember we used to get like 500 new cases, as a benchmark for us, uploaded by the doctors on the platform. And then how many of them have been solved? How many comments are coming on each of the posts? What is the total traffic is also, I've seen a lot of these vertical networks measuring. So a lot of these communities which are, let's say, focused on content, they would talk a lot about what is the total traffic that they have. Then this is very, very common, and not just vertical networks. Any large community would measure what is your DAU, what is your WAU, what is your MAU, which is daily active user, weekly active user. A lot of people would measure DAU upon MAU, DAU upon WAU, which is basically, let's say if I have 100,000 monthly active users, how many of them are on an average coming daily, right? So if, let's say, my DAU upon MAU is only 10%, right? That means on an average, 10% of my monthly active users would come on a daily basis. Then a lot of people measure time spent, because that essentially means that time spent will in future get converted into advertising dollars. And that's why people measure it very often. A lot of paid membership communities or fitness communities, which I've seen in most cases are paid member. They measure how many members are participating in challenges, how many participants are participating in different events, number of queries resolved, very similar to SaaS, because here also, there is a repeat usage. So percentage renewals, percentage referrals. So all these metrics, and generally, you would see that there is an overlap of different metrics with different teams. But, as a community team, we are face of all the teams towards our consumers. And based on the organization's requirements, we may have to focus on certain metrics which the organization is currently focusing more on. Now, I talked about this ARRR funnel earlier, right? So it stands for acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. Now, different teams will focus on different stages. So for example, when I launch a startup or when I'm in early stages, we would have seen like all these big companies, funded companies would generally burn a lot of money to acquire customers, right? So different companies at different stages are very focused on acquisition. Over time, they want to focus on retention, and then over time they want to focus on revenue. But it depends on, some companies actually start focusing from this as a metric, and they say, hey, we don't mind scaling slow, but we want to focus on revenue, which is the current funding climate sentiment as well, right? So on different stages of the organization, you will see different metrics being focused as well. So for example, when an organization is focused on acquisition, they could potentially look at metrics like how many members have you acquired via events, how many volunteer-led chapters have you opened. So CMX does this very often, right? They have these local teams, and people actually run those very, very independently. But what that does is it literally adds more people in your overall community, and this is all like autopilot, right? Where volunteers are running everything for different chapters. Then certain organizations focused on activation. So one of the very important thing is, and in fact we were talking about it earlier as well, is you identify what is the activation for your organization, right? So for example, it could be number of members who participated in 2 sessions in the first week. Let's say if you run Zoom and you're thinking of what metric should I focus on, maybe this is one of the metrics that as soon as I use Zoom, if I attend 2 events within the first week, I've just made it up, so it's not real, but I'm trying to make a point that there are certain metrics which represent that if a user does A, B, C action within X time period of joining the platform, that user is basically high value user. So generally these fall under retention, especially DAO, WOW, MAU, DAO upon MAU, M1 retention, all these are like retention metrics. Then referral is very obvious. Referral can be measured by number of mentions, number of leads which are referred to the sales team or to the platform, if it's a marketing led organization rather than sales led organization. Then number of conversions that came from the referrals. Some organizations will measure number of leads, some organizations will measure number of conversions, right? Then revenue metrics could be renewals, repeat purchase, like I was talking, even like M1 retention could convert into revenue directly, right? So I don't want to go a lot deep now. I just wanted to touch upon different lenses through which at least I have seen different organizations see different KPIs. What we do at Communityhood is very simple. We feel, Communityhood is, we almost run it like a vertical network for community builders. So we measure all the typical things that a vertical network would measure. So number of messages sent per week, DAU, WAU, MAU, how many event registration. We invite members via email for our events, right? So how many email open rate, what is the click rate, how many social media mentions have we got, what is our D7 retention, D30 retention, how many referrals have we got. And then some of the tools that we use HubSpot for marketing. We use Mixpanel for measuring cohort-based data on, let's say, for example, if someone, in the last month, if someone joined the platform, how many of them continue to engage on the platform in this month, right? So Mixpanel helps us build those cohorts. We use Redash. Redash is basically just a tool to visualize the data. So it helps you sort of input the data from your own backend and visualize the data for the important metrics that you want to measure. So these metrics, most of them we actually visualize on Redash. Then Google Analytics helps us measure how many organic traffic are we getting. I think all of us know about it. Rebrandly is something that we use to measure on different click to fill ratios for different forms and different things that we try. And Typeform is the tool that we use for sort of getting the registrations done. I would love to learn from all of us here. How do we measure? But most importantly, I want to understand maybe for 5 or 10 more minutes on what are the different KPIs that we measure. So would love to hear from you guys. What are the KPIs that you guys are measuring in your organizations? You can drop in chat as well. or if you want, please raise your hand. I would love to have you on stage and hear what KPIs that you measure.
Essentially, when I work with my consulting clients, I mean, I have experienced whether it is pro bono or a paid consulting. The final is the revenue numbers which we are looking at. All right. So as you discussed about the AARRR, all right, at the start of the consulting, that is definitely one of the parameters or the framework which we refer to, that where exactly do you want the challenge to be addressed. I mean, just by saying that we want more engagement, we want more impressions, we want more people to sign up for the event, does not solve for anything. As simple as that. Those are basically vanity metrics. Those are needed for you to actually understand how a marketing campaign is working, but not necessarily how the community operates. As simple as that. So as you discussed about SaaS companies, edtech companies, as well as fitness. So let me give you an example of a fitness brand. I mean, it's a D2C product which was producing some organic proteins. All right. The way these guys started to market was essentially they went and tied up with multiple running groups and gyms. As simple as that. And the running groups or gyms, they were not the brand ambassadors. The folks who were regularly coming there, they were incentivized to try this product out. And luckily, just because some of those guys, the folks who tried the product out, they also had their good, Instagram following in terms of the fitness story. After 6 months of conversations, things started to pick up. So that is what I have seen in terms of the KPIs and the metrics. And the D2C brand had the budgets to take care of, essentially, they carved it out from the marketing niche. And essentially where I contributed to it was from the influencer marketing campaign which they were running. It was just the additional idea which came into light. So this is like, 3 different things, whether you look at D2C, fitness, as well as community-led growth, a classic example of it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manjari Ganguly. I work with Quora. I manage the Quora Bangla community. The metrics we follow at Quora is pretty similar to what we have mentioned here in the vertical social side slide. Other than that, I would like to focus on another part. So we always take care of another thing. We track very closely how often or how regularly we are following or closing the tickets. And that is very important because we are in the social media platform, and people sometimes come up with queries, doubts, and questions that they do not know what to do, and if we do not help them at that point, so they're lost. So that is one metric we really take care of regularly. Other than that, I would like to mention another qualitative metric here. So we take feedbacks from our users a lot. Like every month, every week, we talk to them. We try to understand what is going on, if they are comfortable, if they are not comfortable, if they are facing any issues. So not always it is a very quantitative approach, but it helps us a lot to understand if we are going on the right track, or things are, things require any improvement. So these are the 2 things we always focus on.
Madhurima, how about you guys? What tools are you using at MyCaptain?
So we actually run a community on Slack. We have 2 workspaces. We tried bringing in, we started off with like our own app where we had like a feed-based community that was giving us, so we used Get Social as an integration. That used to give us like basic things, but we wanted a chat feature, that hence Slack. Then once we started Slack, we said, we don't know how will this work, how will the community respond and anything. Although we had taken consensus, if Slack versus WhatsApp or whatever. So when we did that, we of course couldn't pay for the community, the Slack workspace. So we said, okay, what do we do? So we came across this tool called Flywheel. I think Siddharth Tripathi, he was working on this product, and we integrated that to our Slack, and that actually gave us a lot of insights into our member behavior. But they took a break. They're working on something different. So right now I've just plugged in Threado. That's working decently well for us as well. But yeah, these are some of the tools. But the usual, the Google Sheets forms, and that you can't just get rid of that, because it's a very early stage for us as well. So we haven't thought of moving into our own platform or any of those sorts as well. So yeah, that's what we're using.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great rest of the week and see you soon in the next event. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and do not forget to subscribe. You can check out similar content by clicking on the videos on the right.